Artitude, as many of its platforms for LGBTQ and minority artists that allow them to practice their passion and their art. But Chris, let's just jump right into the conversation.
It's
like,
me.
Yeah, thank you so much for taking some time to come and chat.
Guys.
Show us your beautiful, beautiful art.
Thank you.
Let's just start with the standard question of just tell us a little bit in the present who you are and what are you doing?
Well, my name is Christopher Box, and what am I doing? It just depends on the day. Where I'm at in my art, I'm really lucky. I've actually kind of been able to curate a space that allows me to actually do a lot of what I consider to pay the bills jobs, but also being able to give equal energy to my art and not have to worry so much about it being the thing that pays the bills. So for where I'm at right now, I actually get to art almost every day, which is, it's
amazing.
It really is. It's, even on the days that you don't want to art, I find that, pushing through, I end up being able to get something, even if it's learning something. So right now, being able to create art when I want in a space, like, this is the first time as an adult I've actually had like a space dedicated to creativity. So
I mean,
kind of neat.
And how many artists can say that, right? So right now, your air conditioning went out in your living space. So you are actually in your studio right now. So we're lucky enough to have access to all of your art.
Absolutely. It's been kind of neat able to do all of the art and have it, because for long I would do the art and then, I'm like self-looking, but now it's really, I've been a collection and build something that I can present to the world. So, and I know everything that I have this season, so I'm overflowing art right now.
Very excited, and that moon piece back there is absolutely killing me. It is so glorious. I can't wait to talk about that one. But one of the things that I had so much fun learning about you was how you actually fell in love with art, because hopefully there are a lot of artists watching right now, and we all have that aha moment where we realize, oh my God, I love this. This is all I really want to do. So how did that happen for you?
For me, like, I've always been an artist. I've always been an artist. Like, I remember when I was a kid, like, I'd go over to my grandma's house and she'd always have like the good paper and the good art supplies. And I remember watching my mom, she always had notebooks and things that she was filling up with her own stuff. And so, the thing for me, it was like, it wasn't falling in love with art. It was like art was always there. So, the irony of it all is that it wasn't, as I got older, it really wasn't encouraged. And not that it was discouraged, but it wasn't like, wow, you should totally explore that. It was more like, no, you should go to college, or no, you should do these things. And so I put art on hold for quite a while. And it wasn't until my mid-20s that I really picked it back up and just decided that no matter what, no matter if I could make a living with it or not, I was going to do it regardless.
So this is something that I love so much. I try to do this with my kids too, which is you weren't like taught art as some like separate subject. It was just an integral part of your family. So it was already an integral part of who you were from when you were very young.
It totally was. Like, it just never occurred to me to not, it just was something I always was. Like, I don't art, I had a really good quote that I did, I don't art because I want to. I art because I have to. Like, it's like I have to make things, or I'm not happy. I'm not. So.
And we had that conversation, and I do this too accidentally with my kids, where, I say, well, so what are you going to do when you grow up? What's the real thing you're going to do? Not that art thing, which of course in my heart I don't really believe, but you kind of shared some of those experiences too, where you kind of squashed. Society does that anyway. So tell us a little bit about your squashiness that happened. And yes, that's a real
word. I think we're going to have to induct that into the dictionary. So squashiness. Like, the thing for me is like, I think as kids, we need to encourage kids more about, it's not always about what you're going to do to make money, because sometimes people will figure that out. Sometimes the thing you're supposed to do in life isn't your job. Sometimes the thing you're supposed to do in life, it is, say, a hobby. It is the thing that gives you joy. And I didn't realize that those two could exist separately, that you could literally have a full-time job and you could still be an artist. And if you're lucky and you work at it and you have that dedication, you can be an artist and make a living at it. I'm just, at a place where I say that I understand what you say about squashiness. Like, it's hard because, people don't necessarily think that what I do is always worthy of making a living with.
Right.
It's a hobby, and to me, the difference between a hobby is something that you do just because it makes you happy, but I actually do study my skill. Like, I do sit down to learn stuff because I want to improve it. So it's more than just a hobby.
Yeah, and even in talking about your childhood, and like, what better way to find yourself, right? Especially we, as LGBTQ community, as minorities, to find ourselves is so hard in our society. And to teach our kids to do that through passion, I mean, God, if you can do that, you've accomplished what a lot of people have just rode over and not accomplished. So that is just the coolest thing ever.
It's totally true. And I think that if you, with art, whatever art that you're practicing, the more you do it, I think the more you find yourself, and I think that's kind of what we're supposed to be doing here, is figuring out who we are and then figuring out how to love ourselves.
Yes.
And if you get lucky enough to do that, it really does, like, it enhances what you can produce in your art. The struggles, the trials, the tribulations, those are the flavors of your art. Those are the things that you're able to kind of, put into the world for other people to look at, So I think it's all connected.
Yeah, and you mentioned this liberation, although we'll probably talk about it more in depth here in a minute, but this liberation to be able to create whatever pops up in your soul. You have that freedom. So what kinds of things are popping up in your soul these days?
So, like, for me, it's really interesting because about a year ago, I ended, like, I was, it's like always, like, you can never just go into what I'm about to say, but me and my partner.
Let's do it. We could do it.
So, me and my partner, we were getting a divorce, and we were together for 12 years, and it was really hard, you guys. It's like, it literally broke my heart, and, my immediate coping mechanism was my art, and being able to explore that deep hurt and be able to have something that quickly became my friend. That's literally everything behind me is like half of what I've done, and it's been about a year, and so I guess, like, right now what I'm exploring is putting all the things that I've learned together and being able to make, I'd say, a unique, cohesive piece. Like, all the things that I've been doing, and then when this big event happened in my life, I was able to take that hurt and the skills and put that together. I had a friend of mine, she goes, man, you really have grown as an artist. Like, it's sad that you're going through this, but your work has got so great. Help, but also the 1,000 hours that I've put in this year actually, the together, powerful. Like, if you practice your craft and then things happen that you can actually take your emotions and put them into art, well, that's pretty great. So kind of where I'm at right now is exploring that,
You mentioned that it took a lot of science work, trial and error, to kind of come into your own. It's like, we talk about these formative years and experience with art, but there comes a time when it like clicks over into something that is you. And I don't know how better to wrap words around that idea, but you mentioned that happened for you. Can you tell us about that? And I know it's just not, first this happened and then this happened, but that transformation that happened. Can you tell us about that?
Absolutely. I actually, I feel very, I'm going to use the word blessed, but there's just something in me that wants to art. It just happens. And so
Yeah.
I have what's called like a default. Like I literally, it'll just come out and I'm like, how did I do that? And so the problem that I would run into is like if I wanted to recreate something, I didn't have the ability to always recreate it. And so I almost
Mm.
had to dismantle some of the things that I was just doing so I could better understand why I was doing it. And then equally, some of the materials that I was using was making my job way harder. Actually, I have a super good friend that
Oh.
she rents the space next to me, so she's an artist too, and she's held my hand and helped me over into the world of using the right materials. And it has absolutely expanded the depth of my art. Like it is night and day. So just studying your work, and figuring out what works, what doesn't work, and then highlighting the things that make you feel good. You
Okay,
know,
so it sounds like, not to like, drill it down to just a couple of things, but it sounds like there's an emotional aspect that happened that was transformative, but then also a very physical aspect of
yes.
changing that stuff you use. So I'm so curious about the stuff that you use. Do you have some of it you can
Well, I
show
brought
us?
one of the things that I brought to show you guys, which is like this would be my go-to. I've got my this is actually a foundation makeup foundation brush, and like this was actually the first brush that I can actually buy these now. I probably buy them like 100 at a time because I love them so much. And equally, I'm very lazy sometimes and not cleaning those very well. So,
I don't believe
but
it. I don't believe it.
right. Well, I'm like I am picky. Like it's like when I cook. Same thing with art. Like everything has to be clean. It has to be ready to go. But once I'm in the process, it's okay if it gets messy. So, and then learning the different things like between the difference between what craft paint is. And I like craft paint. It's the inexpensive stuff you can pick up at like Joann's or Walmart. It's like usually 50 cents for a small bottle. And I still use that. And then equally expanding over into professional art supplies has been say mind blowing because a big part of when I was getting into it, like I didn't have the budget for it. So if I pick up something that it's a $40 bottle of paint, I'm sitting there going, well, then I'm going to be painting with one color for a while. So
Right.
it's true. But equally, what I've learned is like if you use good stuff for the right things, it actually lasts a long time. And it has made me better at being able to express what I want to express rather than having to fight it and to get it there. So there's an ease and I'm going to say like grace that my art has started to take versus the forced, almost heavy-handed look of me trying to make the things I have work. So
And you attribute that just to the quality of the products that you are using, basically, because that's what it sounds like. You've got craft
part of
paint, but then you've got the really good stuff.
yes, part of it's quality, and then the other part is actually using the right product for what you're doing. And what I've learned specifically, because I use acrylics mostly in my painting, is like when you buy, and I say this, like, I get it, we all have to like produce art at whatever level budget we can do, but I've learned that the pigment load in a lot of these more expensive paints is so much higher. And it's literally like when you buy that one bottle, it's
Mm,
like buying 10 of that
mm-hmm.
size.
Oh, I
So
gotcha.
it really has made it just understanding the way things work has made it easier to kind of do that. But don't get me wrong, I love to experiment with things irregardless of the cost or irregardless if it's professional or not.
Okay, so there's the stuff part of it, but I still don't feel like, and maybe this is where we move into your art, that we have really dug into that aha moment when you say, well, I used to, do art, but now I do art. Now this is me. So did you have like this moment, this piece that was like, oh my God, this is who I am? Um,
Yes,
tell us.
I will tell you. So the thing for me that I look because I actually do document almost all of my work and I still have pieces throughout from like when I started. And so being able to look back at my work and look at the depth. And one of the biggest aha moments is like trying all this stuff out. And after you try it out, then you can kind of go, okay, I like this, I don't like that. I like this, I don't like that. And then being able to take what you do like and then curate, cherry pick, and put that into your work. Understanding how things work and why helps you better understand when you're wanting to create something. Like when I want to do a piece, instead of letting chance get me there, because she's really good. I like her. We hang out, me and happenstance. So that's great. And sometimes you can get good stuff, but it is inconsistent. So understanding me, how I work, and then also studying new techniques, having the right products. So when I am ready to produce it, I can. So I've got a little library of my moves that now I actually am starting to, like a cookbook. So whenever I am making art, instead of like, oh, I'll remember it. No, you will not remember it. So I will write it down, or I'll even video it or time lapse it so I can go back and go, oh, that's how I did it, instead of having to relearn it again. So
oh my God, that's brilliant. Moves. Got it. So that's pretty methodical. That is scientific. That is. Really is.
I like to think of it as my it's a test kitchen, it's a lab,
So if you had to describe your art to somebody, I mean, obviously we can see pieces. I'm trying not to look yet, but how would you describe your art to someone with just words before we jump in?
I would say that I have a thing, like my friend helped me coin this, it's called underwater seascapes. So I love the feel of like the underwater seascape from the aspect of something that is abstract. I want people to feel something. I love the quote by, it's actually from Boy George. I'm totally going to quote Boy George, but it's better to be looked at than looked over, and I look at my art, like it's so easy to walk by and not see anything. And it's equally easy to walk by and be like, I hate it. And I love it when people hate my stuff. I love it because I'm like, here, come tell me why. Because it's like when somebody has a reaction, regardless of the reaction, it's something. It's easy just to kind of walk by. So, I would say like my art is definitely an emotional capture a moment in time. I want people to feel something, anything, and then I would say that with mine, there's always, I work with layers and movement. So you're going to have lots of depth. And so what's so cool, you guys, it's only been within the last year that I've been experimenting with lighting these pieces and different, because I have space to do that now. Mm-hmm. And my paintings look so different, like in the daytime. And if you light it at night and in between, they're different paintings. And it's really wonderful to be able to experience the depth that these layers bring. So
I love what you're saying about when people like look at your art and they have this reaction.
Yes.
And that is so cool as an artist, because really their reaction is all about them. It's all about their experience. Yeah. And so you end up learning a lot about the viewer in the process. So
totally.
Yeah.
I learn a lot too about, because sometimes I don't at all see what someone sees, and when they look at it and then I see it, I'm like, oh, okay. So that's cool about abstract, is that everybody kind of sees something different sometimes, good or bad.
You have a series, and the name of your series, I don't want to say it wrong. I have Little Heart in my brain right now. Is that right? See how good the name is? Like, I'm just remembering it, and I don't remember a whole lot of anything. So that is a well-named series, my friend.
Thank you.
So,
go ahead. It's the Little Heart series.
Little Heart series. Okay. So I'm ready to, I can't wait to jump in and see everything that you're going to show us.
I'm excited to share this with you guys.
What are you going to show us first?
So what I thought I would do is I'd start off with maybe like the first one that I did, and maybe give you just a quick like idea of why I painted this. Like, so I'll grab a piece, because this is the first one that I did. in this series. And this is actually, I don't usually keep a lot of my stuff. Sometimes I do, but this was the very first one that I did in the series. And what was, let's see if you can, if you guys can we see that okay or no? It's probably going to be.
Bring it back to us. Can you hold it while you talk?
Yeah,
like
I can.
A little frame under your chin. Okay, yeah, because it's just so beautiful.
Thank you.
Continue telling us. Educate us.
So the short of it, I won't focus on, like I say, the details, but I got hurt, and for lack of a better description, it was just, I needed a moment to kind of collect myself, and the art really kind of made that happen. And so I didn't have any plan. I just sat down, and funny enough, it's because of all the things that I learned, I just kind of, or taught myself, started playing around. And actually, one of the things that I like is that, and it's become kind of a signature thing, and the first layer of this is actually an acrylic marker. So it's got every single square inch except for this is covered in what looks like these rocks, and I just had a vision of, like, when something's so big that you can't even comprehend it, right? That you literally have to distance yourself almost from an angle of, like, being a kid. Because sometimes you tell kids stories, and they're not really what you're telling them, but they're an analogy, right? So I just immediately saw, like, the cliche, if you will, of a broken heart. Well, what happened if your heart isn't broken? What happened if your heart's so hurt it needs a minute? So I just had a vision in my mind of it, sinking to the bottom of the ocean, right? But being able to create an alternate universe where you could just kind of be safe for a minute. So I kind of had the vision of it being like almost like this rock cave thing, but I wanted it to be where the little heart in the corner was, like, emanating, like, this greenish glow of, like, taking a minute for itself and then being able to, still have its light into the world. So very melancholy, sad, but there's also just that little whisper of hope, if you will. And then playing with such a, I'm going to say, I don't know, like, iconic image, like a heart. Like, anybody can do a heart. Anybody can do that, right? And so how do you take such a universal symbol and be able to layer your own message on it? I wanted someone to look at it and, without me telling the story at all, and go, I see somebody that might have been hurt. And then equally, I see somebody who's working on it, who's trying to figure it out and still has hope in their heart. And so that just kind of kicked off this series. I loved it so much. I kept it. So this was, like, the first one was mine. And then I started, just painting them like crazy, and then taking this little heart on little adventures. So I even, on some of the posts that I do on Instagram, I have started writing some poetry to go with it. I'd like to eventually write a little book, like a children's book for adults with little hearts. So
a couple of questions come to mind. You talked about this greenish glow that is kind of emanating from that heart. So do different colors for you have, like, permanent feelings associated with them? So like, in your mind and your heart, when you think of the green in general, does it have kind of a somber sadness to you, or did it just in this moment?
I think that for me, for green, like, one, it's one of my all-time favorite colors. Two, you've heard of, like, chakras and all those things. Like,
I have.
So the heart chakra is actually, everybody thinks of the heart as being red, but the traditional, like, color of the heart chakra is green. And so it's almost like I wasn't even planning it, but I think on the subconscious I was, because the greenish glow is like your most authentic self. It's the real version of you. And, the ultimate goal of what I've intended with the Little Heart series this whole time is that when the little heart finally comes out of the ocean, is that it's going to shed the red and it's going to be a green heart, going back to its true self. And to me, like, the red represents, being in a relationship, maybe not always being your authentic self. Not that that's bad, But sometimes when we get with people and we do things, we become things that maybe we're not. And so I kind of wanted the little heart to be a little bit of that symbol. So the greenish glow is the way of it resetting and coming back to its most authentic self. So
one of the other things that I love is this heart and how it is a universal symbol and how you use that to draw people in to look deeper. And I just, oh my God, I love it so much.
Thanks
It's
so
absolutely
much.
beautiful. I wish I could see the rocks better, but I can't. I can't see them from here.
So we can I don't know if that will bring it up, but I'll tell you on the website. All of these pieces are listed, and I've spent
I see them.
A lot of time.
Tell us your website. Like, this is a really good time to do, like, how we're going to contact you. I want to make sure people can get to this art and buy this art. It's absolutely beautiful, but no one's allowed to buy the moon. That's mine.
Done. That moon is, I'm a fan of it too. It's one of my favorites, but my website is theflipartist.com, just like it sounds. And I've got everything listed. I've also got, specifically of that piece, I've got, I do have prints available for that as well. But yeah, you can even go in and check like the detail, because it really is, it's so hard to capture sometimes. Most of my pieces really do have that neat, almost 4D feel to it when you see it.
So show us something else.
You know, I'll show you like the next one of these that I really, you know what, let's look at the moon, because you had that one.
Oh, okay. I will not argue with you about looking at the moon. Oh my God, it's beautiful. Oh, and there's the heart. I didn't even see the heart. I'm gonna cry.
Oh my gosh, that means a lot. Like, this is actually one of my most recent additions to the Little Heart series, and it's like I'm always moved by songs, and I listen to a variety of music, and there's a song by Bruno Mars called Talking to the Moon, and it's such a beautiful song, and it's one of those things that it's sad, but it's melancholy, but there's still hope, and I love the lyrics of just, sometimes it's just nice to talk to the moon, you know? I have I call it my sky deck. It's actually a little deck on my house, and I can sit out and I literally go out and study the moon, you know, and being able to, this was so exciting because I have a couple pieces that I've experimented with the moon, and this one I was like, I nailed it.
You nailed it.
Thank you so much. And I did, like, you can see there's a little, like, almost like clouds, but it kind of almost looks still, like, if you look at it, it still feels like you might be underneath. You might be with all the rocks and pebbles. You might be in a little cave, you know, and this might be the moon that you're seeing from it. So, you know, there's like so many things about these pieces have layers and stories to them that, you know, you can't really get it until you see it up close, you know. So
I mean, I want to see that up close. And, you know, even through my phone, it like looks like there's so much movement. I mean, it doesn't look still at all.
It's
beautiful.
Not. I love working with the, it's like an iridescent, like pearlescent paint that can kind of make it like, I say shimmery, it's almost metallic, but not too much, you know, add some depth to it.
So, like, what about the heart at the bottom right? So, like, the heart juxtaposed to the moon there, if you're putting the heart in every single painting, for you personally, does it mean something different because it's in a different context?
The heart really, for the most part, I've actually stuck with having the heart on this side. I don't know why, it just feels right to me to do it. And then equally, I've got, you know, other pieces that I've experimented with the heart being other places. But innately, I'm drawing to having it in this bottom corner here. Just more from the angle of, like, when you look at something, that's the lowest area that you can get. That's the area that, you know, when I was first experimenting with these pieces, like, you know, most of them have something in this corner, and it's like a little protection. It's like a little area, a little safety zone, if you will. You know, and I want people when they have these pieces, like this is something you could sit on the couch and just look at it every day and see something different, and feel something different. They can be hopeful, but you can have days where you just don't feel good. And this is something that kind of goes along with how you feel.
I'm in love with your art. I'm absolutely in love. Show us something else.
I love one of my kind of neat, I've got these right here are actually more of the, like, say the greenish glow, if you will, but this is kind of inspired by the Aurora Borealis. So kind of my mindset here is like, sometimes when we think we're the weakest and when we feel that the world is not our friend, it's a time that we're resetting. It's a time that we are actually digesting the lessons that we've learned. And so there's a moment when you can kind of figure out who you are, right? And then that moment, something magic happens, and then, for lack of a better description, you can unleash yourself upon an unsuspecting world. And so I really like the idea of this piece being like exploding, almost like knocking away all the darkness, and effortlessly, not going out and fighting it. It's just, that's who you are.
It just happened. I love it. And the heart is in the very center of the piece.
Absolutely.
Which makes sense.
It does. So this one's about like pretty recent, within the last like 4 or 5 months, but it's about ascension. It's time to kind of, let's get the show restarted. You know what I mean?
Let's go.
Yep,
yeah.
For sure. So I've got those, and I'll show you this one too, because this is one of the first ones too. This is the kind of, I would say, the catalyst. So I have a vision in my mind. We're on the beach, and you guys, seriously, totally, it was like, I knew that was the last night, and nothing had been said. I knew it was over. I did, in my heart. And so this was the first, and it actually, to me, the little heart is like, doesn't really know what's happening yet, right? It's kind of like this beach scene, and I love the texture at the bottom, something a little bit different. And this is one of the first like beachscapes that I've done, and I've grown and played with more of this and kind of, explored it. But I like that it's funny, when I first did this on here, I thought that's just too on the nose. Like, it's just too much. Like, it's a heart. It's just gonna.
Right.
And I just actually.
Come on, it's a heart.
It's a heart, right?
Yeah.
I had several friends that were like, don't do that. It's too on the nose. And I just like, I have to. And this is the one that kind of really kicked everything off, so to speak. So here's my question. I'm going to try to frame this question very well. It's like the way that painting is portrayed. There's all of this pain and this tumultuous eggs just all right under the surface. But when you were painting it, did you know what all of that symbolizes? I mean, in retrospect, of course, it's easy to say this was the night and really bad stuff was about to go down. My heart didn't know it yet. But did you know it then? You know what? It's weird. Yes and no. Mostly no. I've learned to trust my intuition. I am usually emotionally about 5 steps ahead of what's really going on. So my mind doesn't know, but my body does. That sounds weird. It's true.
No, it doesn't.
And so in retrospect, I look back and it's like, sometimes things are going on and we're not really good at being able to vocalize it, but it doesn't mean that we don't know, So.
Oh, I know. I do.
Right.
Yeah.
I think we all do at some level, for sure.
Yeah.
And I think that the little heart is, it's something that we all can relate to. We've all been through things, and seen things that have, in the moment we felt was pretty awful. And then in the end, we realized it was needed, and it was almost something that kind of changed your trajectory to be able to be a better you.
So, final question. As an artist, You haven't, you're in a different medium right now. You're talking to us. How would you give us like our takeaway? So like, how do you want people to see your art tonight? Hear your words? What is the message you would like to say as an artist?
I think for me, like I say, my number one message is there's nothing better. Like, listen, I didn't always used to like, not only am I an artist, but I actually buy art too. And sometimes I've bought things that were expensive and sometimes they weren't. But what I will tell you is like, for me, when you own something that is genuinely, it's one of a kind, like someone poured their heart into it, someone poured their, themselves into it. And there's a little bit of magic in owning something like that and having a piece that no one else does. And so that's one. And then the other would be like, love yourself. I know it sounds silly, but that's what I want these pieces to say. Like, we're not supposed to be here and try to get through without making any mistakes. We're supposed to learn. We're supposed to figure things out. So hurt's part of the process, So it's been interesting to explore that through this series, for sure.
I'm just so excited about your art. Even through my phone, I cannot wait to get there in person and look at it. But I did lie because I still have one more question. I want to know, what does your future hold? Don't leave us hanging there. Like, what do you see happening in your near future? And then what's your dream?
I'm so glad you asked that. That's actually, my ultimate dream would be to be able to take, I love the little hearts so much. I love it. And in fact, it's become like my almost go-to, if you will. But I'd love to be able to take this little series and be able to continue to grow it. It was really sad. This was the first year that, I literally got my art booth ready and I was going to go out and do it. And then, everything happened.
COVID. Yeah.
Right. Totally. So that kind of put a damper on that. So I'm looking forward to kind of coming back, and I want more FaceTime with people. I want to be able to talk to people. One of the coolest things when I was doing some of the art shows is just being able to talk to people about their stuff and then be able to watch their reaction to it, So I've recently just, on the Little Heart series, actually added, I'm starting to do these little candles that are
I love that.
fragrance to match some of the experiences that I'm talking about. So I've added those. But my ultimate goal and what I'm working toward is that I want to make a living as an artist, and I'm willing to do the work. So, and I think sometimes about willing to do the work means like, even when you don't want to, you've got to do that. So that's kind of what's going on at the moment.
Well, I have had so much fun getting to know you and then just seeing your beautiful soul all the way through these pictures. It's been, you have been a wonderful person to talk to.
Thank you. I feel the same.
It's so nice to meet you.
It was nice to meet you too. Thank you guys. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for everybody for tuning in. So, all right, well, have a good night.
You too. Thanks, guys.